evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to this STEM So What seminar session. My name is Archie Wilmer. Some of you know me. I see some of the students, some of my students, and I'm the MC for this event. So we have a great seminar session planned for you this evening. I'll probably be talking more to this side of the room until we get more people over here. No offense, but thank you for coming. This evening, the Computer Science and Information Technology Department is hosting our event, and the title of this session is Women in Technology, a panel discussion, and we have wonderful Ms. Tiffany Harris, who is our panel member. As I mentioned, we are recording, and so we have recordings of our past STEM So What sessions available online through our TCC Learning Commons. The URL is, as you see it on the screen there. You can write that down or record it and look at the past events that we have had for STEM So What. And so libguides.tccd.edu and with a / STEM So What. Some very interesting past sessions we've had. Hope you enjoyed that. And I want to take a moment to thank our Learning Commons, really it's a division, and a collection of wonderful personnel who are providing that support. So thank you very much. So I want to introduce a few important people. So we have our visionary of the STEM So What and the planning team. The visionary is our wonderful division dean, who is Dr. Greta Bowling. And she sat down a couple of years ago and laid out what she envisioned this would be. We also have planning team members, and you can read it, but I'm going to mention their names anyway. Jennifer Anderson in the math department. We have Dr. Elaine Coleman with the biology. We have James Hobbs, who just came in, I saw him, with geology. Dr. Permeet Jatka with biology. Ms. Sarah Martin, who is our division administrative specialist. Amanda Wisnat, who is with the mathematics department, and yours truly. I'm also in the mathematics department. And so we get together quite often and plan these events, and we try to use the departments to bring in the speakers, the guest speakers, and other engaging activities. What is STEM So What? So first of all, what is STEM? STEM is this acronym for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And it's an umbrella term used to cover all of these four disciplines that are kind of a technical discipline. So STEM So What showcases the role of STEM beyond the classroom. This is not really an academic setting. It's more of a colloquium where we talk, engage, inspire, inform, and do some other things. And so Dean Bowling envisioned an opportunity to answer the question, STEM, so what? Why is that important? Why is STEM so important? And so this is our opportunity to answer that question. Why is STEM relevant, not only for STEM majors and STEM-related majors, but for everyone, for non-STEM majors. And so this is our opportunity to do that. And so we plan these sessions throughout the semester to attempt to address and showcase STEM. Why? We want to inform, inspire, and engage. And what that means, because it's important to continue informing and inspiring students who choose STEM as their pathway. Even as they started their pathway, we still need to inspire them. We still need to provide them information and keep them engaged. Getting students to join science and math and technology and engineering clubs is one way to foster that increased sense of belonging, because we know that's important. You need to feel belonging. Another way to continue informing and inspiring and engaging you is through these college colloquium forums, like this seminar program. So our goal is to really increase recruitment, increase retention, increase graduation in both STEM and STEM-related fields. We are open to everybody. And so even humanities and public affairs students who come in and pick up some golden nuggets, we want them to share that with other individuals, other siblings, other classmates, other family members, so that they can also get the information and continue to be inspired about STEM. Tarrant County College can make a difference. We are trying to increase the number of STEM professionals in the workforce. Tarrant County College is one of the nation's largest comprehensive two-year colleges. And if you didn't know, it's a public institution serving Fort Worth and surrounding Tarrant County in North Texas. It serves a wide range of students with a diverse set of educational backgrounds. Tarrant County, Texas, is the third largest county in Texas. And Fort Worth is the 13th, think of all the cities in America. Fort Worth is the 13th largest city in the nation. Even small, modest improvements in our ability to recruit, retain, and graduate STEM professionals makes a huge difference, not only to Texas, but to our nation. And so it is this program that is attempting to address the STEM workforce. So our invited speakers and guests help inspire STEM students and anyone who is interested in hearing. We want you to hear personal accounts of becoming a STEM professional. We want you to hear about overcoming the challenges and the obstacles along a career in STEM. Hearing how others have succeeded helps build your own grit and your tenacity to also succeed. At this time, I want to spotlight student clubs and any student officers and any faculty members who are involved in student clubs. So membership, what we know is that membership in clubs allows students to build their skills beyond the academics. Students who participate in clubs have more opportunities to learn and to practice and to put into practice some new skills that can serve them not only now, but also in their future. Clubs are places where students feel accepted. Student clubs are places to build skills beyond the classroom. Student clubs are places that help students diversify their skills. And it also is a place where students are encouraged to grow as leaders. The Grand Canyon University, not yet, Grand Canyon University has a list of the benefits of joining clubs in college. And I'll share just a few of them, but they say joining a club, especially in college, can allow you to make new friends. We want you to do that. Student clubs can build your social support network. We want you to do that. Clubs in college can lower your stress level because you have this outlet to release that stress. Improve your interpersonal and communication skills. Expand your professional networking opportunities. You get to meet some great people who are going to do great things, including yourself. And you can enhance your resume and also just take a break every now and then. So that's what those student clubs are designed to do. So one of the things we want to do while we're in these seminar sessions is to provide students with tips for success. And so we call this our segment of Instructor Insights. And so it's a mentoring moment. You can mentor deliberately or just kind of spontaneously on the spot. And this is kind of a deliberate setup to provide you some tips for success. So I wanted to, I'm being selfish, I wanted to be the instructor insight for this session. So it's a segment that allows us to share some information. So I'm the presenter. Go ahead. So what I wanted to do was provide you with some questions. I often get questions from students about, I'm trying to choose a career, choose a degree, choose a major, and I have questions about how to do that. And so what I want to do is share with you some questions that you should ask yourself. That is, in order to really choose a right career, you need to do some homework on yourself. You need to take some notes about yourself. And so let me share with you some of these questions that you should ask yourself and begin to get the answers to. So first, regardless of your chosen field, knowing some of the most important questions to ask yourself about your career can improve your career outcome. It makes you choose a better career. Discovering which questions to ask can be an important career step. And so the first question to ask yourself is, what interests me? And so you should ask yourself that and begin to note the things that interest you. Some activities that you enjoy doing in your spare time could provide you with insight regarding what careers are appropriate for you. Doing something you enjoy can lead to more productivity and long-term satisfaction. So finding these interest items, these interest elements in a potential career can improve your career prospects. So some of the questions you should ask: what are your favorite hobbies? Do I most enjoy working with people or non-people, like animals? And maybe you don't like any of those. You don't like people, you don't like animals. So maybe you like objects and doing things with your hands. And maybe you don't like that. You like something more abstract, like, I don't know, thoughts or the way people behave or data. Those are kind of abstract things. And answering those questions begins to frame the possible career choices that you make. Do you have a favorite? Do you enjoy things indoor or outdoor? It could make a difference. Next slide. Besides figuring out the kinds of jobs you may enjoy doing, it helps to determine which jobs you're currently qualified to perform. So what are your current skills? Also, if you're considering changing careers now or in the future, you can determine which of those careers and skills align. There are hard skills. There are skills that you directly gain through research, through study, through practice. There are hard skills. There are soft skills. There are general skills that you pick up, that you acquire through your life experiences that are useful in a wide variety of fields. And so knowing what your current skills are is important. What's your personality? The way you think and behave usually has a strong influence on your career choice. And so when thinking about your career, try to assess some aspects of your personality. You can determine whether you enjoy leading or following orders, if you prefer working with others or alone. Similar elements of your personality can relate to your professional life. What education or training do I need to fulfill my career goals? So when setting your career objectives, determining what to learn to achieve them is an important step. And so some jobs have clear educational requirements. You know what you have to do. You have to get this certificate, this degree, and you won't be able to work in that field without that certificate or degree. While others allow a more flexible approach. And so knowing the time and the money it takes to pursue a career can help you make a more informed decision. Thanks. What's the job outlook? When analyzing a potential career path, it may be helpful to research the estimated job outlook. A popular occupation may offer a better salary, but competition for jobs might be really strong. A less popular job or occupation may not seem like the right choice initially, but your chance of having a successful career in that area in the future might improve. Deciding how much time you want to dedicate to your career is an important factor. The more time you spend either working or improving your skills, the better your chance of career advancement. And so it's important to allow for personal time, to allow for those opportunities to do things beyond the job, and this helps reduce burnout and losing motivation. So finding the right balance for your personality can be an important career move. How happy am I with my current job? So some of you have jobs, some of you have part-time jobs, some of you have full-time jobs. You're trying to balance your life and your academics. But assessing your career path can help you determine if you need a change with what you're doing now and how much change is needed. You can analyze how satisfied you are with your chosen line of work in general and with your career trajectory. That is, you're trying to go somewhere. And it's possible that what you're doing now is not the right place you should be now. And so asking yourself, how happy am I with my current career, is an important question to ask. Different professional settings typically require different soft skills. Most outdoor roles require a healthy body and the ability to withstand various weather conditions, because you're working outdoors. Working in an office setting might mean that you need good communication and interpersonal skills to interact with your colleagues. We do that every day in this education setting, and also with your supervisors. So working from home also requires some self-discipline, some soft skills in order to be successful in that remote work. When asking questions about your career, you can consider this as you assess the workplace conditions of a potential job. Some jobs that fit your profile may be in a different geographical region. Are you willing to move? Relocate. Also, some specific occupations have high concentrations of jobs in certain locations. When analyzing a career, determine if you can move for a potential career opportunity. Sometimes you just have to relocate in order to make that next level step. And it'll help you decide if a certain career path is appropriate for you. Number 10, when asking questions about your career, try to determine how much you're willing to sacrifice for career experiences to determine how, for career advances, and you can use your previous job experiences to determine how much certain aspects affect you. Discovering what compromises you're willing to make can help you choose your career path. Determining whether your current job is helping you achieve your long-term career ambitions. That's an important step. You may conclude that your current role, although currently satisfying, it's making do, but it isn't helping you reach your potential. So it may also help you determine when a certain job doesn't offer those advancement opportunities. Number 12, although the usual purpose of a job is to earn money, this may not be the most important goal for every employee. Some may prefer job stability to a better income, while others may look for a slower pace, a less stress-inducing role, because that's what is important for them. Determining how much you prioritize earnings over other aspects of your job can help you decide which careers would actually suit you. So here's a great question. Is a STEM career more stable than a non-STEM career? That's a great question to ask. If you type this question into Google search, you'll get the following response. And so I'll let you read it for yourself, but basically it's saying STEM careers tend to be more stable than non-STEM careers. No job is 100% secure. However, because of growing demand, the importance of this technical expertise, professionals working in STEM fields are less likely to be unemployed. And so I say that's an important answer, important information to know when choosing your career. And also when taking out those student loans for those high-tech fields. These are some of the references that I use. Indeed.com. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has a wonderful package of occupational outlook, and it will tell you what are the growing fields. You want to know that as you begin choosing your career path. And so now it is time for our featured speaker. I hope you appreciated those mentoring moments. I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to the chair of the Computer Science and Information Technology Department. Goes by Greg, but he also goes by Robert Harris.
Whichever you prefer, I'm open to either. Thank you very much, Dr. Wilmer. I really appreciate that. Are we going to share the mic? I guess we'll share the microphone here. I usually have a pretty loud voice. I'm losing my hearing, so I think I see some of my students are like, yeah, well, you're yelling all the time. That's because I figure you can't hear. So thank you all for being here. We had another panelist that was ideally going to be here, but Tiffany graciously decided to come on her own, so be gentle with her, right? Unfortunately, the other lady had a bit of a family emergency come up, but Tiffany, like I said, is women in tech is kind of the thing, right? I work in the IT, information technology department, and I think one of the things that I see, and kind of one of my soapbox issues, and I'll just throw it out there, is really we don't have enough diversity in IT in particular. Like in STEM fields in general, I don't know the details on that as well as I do about IT, but there really is there's a dearth of diversity, right? Particularly females, and also, I mean, there's a lot of people in IT that are like myself, right? Former law enforcement, former military, particularly in cybersecurity. So one of the things I thought would be really interesting is talk to a lady that's very successful, high-powered lady in IT and kind of talk about how did you get there, what did you experience, and what kind of mentorship like that, what kind of tidbits, what kind of wisdom can you offer to the ladies that are considering a career in IT. So with that, any questions before I begin? No, I feel like which way do I look? A tennis match. So Tiffany, if you would you give us a brief intro of yourself and kind of just tell us what you think would be interesting or relevant to know.
First of all, thank you for having me. Sorry that you only get me. My coworker couldn't be here, like Greg said. I feel like we should disclose that we're married in case it gets dicey up here. So if you see me throw the microphone at him, don't worry.
Just note it down because
Just getting them back. So interesting or relevant? I think. Firstly, I didn't go to school for IT. I went to school to be an emergency manager. I got my Bachelor's of Science in Emergency Administration and Planning from the University of North Texas, top 10 program over there. I interned with the Denton Fire Department and quickly realized that it was very much a men's club, even more so than IT, and that it wasn't really for me. So my second internship was actually with a financial institution that is based in Plano, Texas, a corporate credit union, which is the best way to think of it as a banker's bank, but for credit unions. So everything you do with a bank, credit unions actually do with them. And it was in business continuity of all things, which is really just emergency management, but for a corporation. I did that for a while. most of my 20s, I'd say. And then I got into risk management, and I got into enterprise risk management, and I got into the different regulations around risk management and data protection, and that led me into what I would say second line of defense. I think Greg teaches about the 3 lines of defense. I've heard a little bit. Position overseeing information security for a large auto lending company. And then while I was doing that, the chief information security officer said, "Hey, Tiff, you're really good at this risk stuff. What do you know about information security?" And I was like, not a whole lot, buddy. But he saw something in me, I guess, and plucked me out of my job and put me on his InfoSec team. And that was about 8 or 9 years ago. And I have stayed in InfoSec since then. I've been a business information security officer, where I focused heavily on regulation and data protection, and now I'm at Toyota Financial Services, and I think my current title is Cyber Risk Operations Manager, which is honestly a lot of risk management. So most IT departments, most information security departments have a governance, risk, and compliance function. It's a little bit of a less technical function, so I don't have my CISPA, I don't have all the certifications that everybody looks for in cybersecurity, but I do know risk management really well, and information security at the end of the day is just a very large risk program. So that's kind of how I got there. I think that's probably all that's relevant.
That was pretty good, I gotta say, right now I feel a little, I gotta step up my game. So you talked about your Toyota Financial Services. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like some of the titles, your incredibly long, powerful sounding title. What does that really mean? What do you do? What is a day in a life? Like what do you typically do? How do you kind of organize your time? What are the things that you're most involved in? You kind of tease that out for us.
Okay, feels weird you standing and
I know, I
me
feel like
sitting
I'm hovering
and
over
spinning.
you. Maybe I'll just sit on the floor.
So
Move
my
over here.
typical day is a ton of meetings. I live in meetings and I breathe meetings. No, I'm just kidding. What my team focuses on are risk assessments of our infrastructure environment, of where all of our customer data lives. So Toyota Financial Services is exactly what it sounds like. It's the financial arm of Toyota. So if you take out a car loan with Toyota, it's actually with Toyota Financial Services. So it's a second arm of the manufacturing firm. We are headquartered in Plano, down 121-ish. If you know where Nebraska Furniture Mart is, we're right there. My day is a lot of talking about risk and identifying risk. And what I mean by that is, Greg showed me a network topology diagram earlier and said, what's wrong with this? Where are the firewalls missing? Where is this missing? How would you protect this network? And that's not really what I do. What I do more is tell you why we need to protect the network and tell you why the customer data is so important and why that's the root of the business. I think a lot of IT folks get it in their head that IT runs the business, and that is not true whatsoever. The business runs IT. The business was around before IT, and the business will continue long after IT changes. So I think that is one of the messages I try to sell on a regular basis every day, just about, because IT folks, we can get a little cocky.
Not me.
And then a lot of what I do is staying abreast of the regulations. There are so many privacy and information security regulations, and my job is to make sure that when those new regulations come down, or they make an amendment, or they change something, that my information security team can do exactly what's required, and we can protect the data to the fullest. I check the news at 3. No, I'm just kidding.
Your job seems really difficult. Tell me, what do you like best, and then conversely, what do you like least about your current role? And feel free to expand it out, like kind of the arc of your career. What have you really enjoyed? What is your passion? What developed your interest? And what are those things that maybe were not so interesting? And sorry?
It's like 15 questions.
Was it? Which one do you want? Just tell me what you like best about your current role.
Okay. What I like best is I am a people person. I really like being involved in what's happening and what's going on. And being an information security manager, you're kind of in the middle of it. You know, if the network team wants to go this direction or the data team wants to go this direction, everybody has to come through information security and consult with us first. So that part is really exciting. I like that we get to be kind of like a guidance counselor. You know, they come to us with projects and things they want to do, and we help them figure out how it's going to work. A lot of people like to think that information security is the big department of no. We say no to everything. No, that's not safe. No, you can't do that. I like to think of us as the department of help. So no, you can't do it that way, comma, but we can maybe do it this way. So that's what I like most about my job. I like all the people I get to interact with, all the different teams and departments. I present to everyday employees and I present to executive management, and I get a lot of exposure because of my position, because I have to be an expert on regulations and things like that. It says, what do you like least about your role? I think the thing I like least is the meetings. When you're involved in everybody's Kool-Aid, it's a lot of meetings, and there are a lot of discussions and a lot of meetings about meetings. So if you are a hands-on keyboard kind of person, you want to be the next great hacker, you want to be on the red team, purple team, everybody loves the hacking teams, governance, risk, and compliance is not for you. Not to say that there isn't a place for you in information security, there absolutely is. We need hackers, we need all of those people, but I would steer away from risk management if you don't enjoy talking a lot and you don't enjoy being in meetings for most of your day.
When she said hackers, she means ethical hackers, right? Just to clarify for the room, we're not looking for the black hats necessarily. So it sounds like, just kind of listening to what you were saying, it sounds like a lot of what you're doing, your job role, one of the key things you have to do is collaboration and communication. Is that something that does that come naturally to IT people? Because I feel like there's a stereotype out there that IT people, you know, are maybe not super personable, not super type A's and outgoing and things like that. Can you share your experience with that?
Yes, I would say that I am definitely the exception and not the rule. I think most IT folks are pretty introverted. I actually have been out of the office this week and I heard that it's been very quiet. So I think there's a place for everybody. We need extroverts, we need introverts, we need the people that, you know, want to keep their head down and program and code, and I need the people that want to get out there and explain to the business why no, you can't do that, and why my code works this way and not that way. So I think it takes all kinds of people.
She agrees.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about regulations, being familiar with regulations. Why is that such a big deal, particularly, it sounds like in the information security space that you're occupying? Regulations, are they mostly federal, state? Like, how important is that, and how does that kind of drive your activities of you and your team?
Yeah, so for my team, they drive everything. We have federal regulations and state regulations, and they drive everything. If you have customer data, and if you think about it this way, if a company has your personal customer data, then don't you want to know that they are going to the full extent to make sure that it doesn't get out there on the internet? I mean, at the end of the day, probably all of our data is already out there anyway, but it's not Toyota's fault, I can promise that so far. But yeah, I mean, the regulatory landscape is always changing. The states, more and more states are coming up with their own laws and their own regulations. New York is a really big one. California is a really big one. I think everybody was pretty excited when California led the way with the right to delete your data. So we are patiently waiting and watching and waiting for the rest of the states to come down with similar regulation.
So, going back to the skill set, right? You talked about we need everybody in there, different skill sets. What kind of skill sets are you looking for? What is your team looking for? Like, because you're part of a broader department, broader effort. What are some of the skills, and are they all traditional technical? Like, I've come through this technical, I've come through a STEM program, I'm hands-on keyboard, I speak binary, I read binary, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe are you looking for like a broader skill set, maybe somebody from a creative arts background, or somebody, it sounds like maybe a lawyer would be helpful, I don't know, with all the regulations.
Yeah, I don't think there's any one path to cybersecurity in particular. Like Greg's experience with the military and law enforcement is one way to come in. We do have people who majored in drama or, majored in dance. I don't know. We've got all kinds of folks in IT. I think at the end of the day, we're hard workers. Most of the folks in IT, we work long hours, unfortunately. You're either building something or rebuilding something. And so I think everybody in particular really wants to be in security because it's sexy and it's where all the fun is, but it's also where a lot of the hours are. You think about ethical hackers, a lot of what they're doing is after hours because they're trying to get in when nobody else is around and they want to see where they can get in and sneak in and what they can take. So I don't think there's any one way to get into IT. I think you need a solid work ethic if you're going to stick around. I think you need to be willing to learn, and continuous learning is really important. When we are looking for people for our team, we're looking for people that want to keep learning because the landscape is ever changing, and like we've talked about a little bit, regulations are always changing, and that means we need new tactics. The bad guys get better every day, and so if they're getting better, we got to get better too, right?
Got you. Before anybody's like, oh, I don't want to get into IT, right? You're pretty well compensated for those long hours potentially.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, right? I don't want to discourage anybody from IT.
Yeah,
some long hours,
the
right?
handout's not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, but typically those hours come with the compensation, remuneration, in other ways.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about, and this is where we're kind of really getting into the meat potentially of women in technology, and can you share some of the biggest hurdles for you? Like, what did you feel as a woman in the technology field? And how are those hurdles maybe different for somebody like me? Is there a difference? And how did you experience those? What did you run into? And how do you kind of solve it? How do you engage with those hurdles that are potentially out there?
Yeah, so when I started in InfoSec 8-9 years ago, I was the only female on the team. It took hiring in a bunch more females for me to not be the only female on the team. And that has drastically changed just in 8 or 9 years. The amount of females that are now working in IT and cybersecurity is just astronomical compared to where it was before. I think when I first got in, it's a white guy game, unfortunately, There were a lot of white men on the team. There were a lot of ex-military guys on the team, a lot of ex-law enforcement folks on the team, and that comes with a certain bravado, right? They have a certain personality. I don't know if you can tell by this guy over here, but they carry themselves a certain way, and so a lot of the hurdles that I had was just proving my worth, proving that I am smart, I am chosen to be here, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to end up helping us in the long run. I think there's a little bit of confidence you have to carry when you're a female going into a male-dominated arena. You have to deeply know your worth and know that you are smart and you are just as capable and you are just as able-bodied and you deserve to be there just as much as the next guy. I think minorities probably feel that way too. There has also been significant improvement in the number of minorities coming into IT and cyber, which is awesome. I really love it. I'm big on diversity and inclusion, and so I do a lot of work with different groups. How do we recruit diverse candidates? How do we keep diverse candidates? And so I forgot what the question was. I started talking and then I walked around it, I think.
No, I think you were around it. You had talked about, initially the kind of question was, what have you faced or what hurdles were maybe particular for you? And you talked about maybe over the last 8 or 9 years, you've seen changes, positive changes in diversity of the workforce. What are some of the things, the initiatives that you've seen, right, that have been successful? Is the industry really recognize this is a problem and really actively working to fix it, or what have you seen to be successful? And what might be, what would you kind of recommend in the future as far as those kind of efforts to recruit different people coming into the field? Take that word.
Yeah, hitting me with the hard stuff. I've seen a lot of women in IT events, right? We are actively recruiting women. There were a large number of diversity, equity, and inclusion projects that kicked off in the past 10 years. I know we've seen some of them, we've seen it in the news, especially about universities and getting away from their D&I programs, but at least at Toyota, we're still really big on getting women into IT and bringing women into what has predominantly been a male-dominated force. Even our manufacturing side is predominantly male. So we have a lot of efforts to recruit women. We have a lot of efforts to continue education for women. We do it for men too, but once you're in the door, we like to keep you in the door, and we like to train you and make sure that you are well equipped for the job at hand. I think most importantly is people talking about it. You know, when you get programs like this where you get women together in a room and the men show up too, which is awesome. Thank you guys. I think that's important, and I think we still need a lot of support to get more women into the industry.
Thank you. And going back a little bit to the differences in skills, like we're a community college, right, 2-year. A lot of people are going to be pursuing their associate of science, associate applied science, something like that. What are your thoughts on, you know, how prepared are the students coming out with a 2-year degree versus, because everything, well, I don't know what you all experience, but a lot of people looking in jobs in the IT field, you start doing your searches, right, and you see you need a bachelor's degree, right? And I also want 7 years of experience for an entry-level position. Like that, you know, what are you talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. What are your thoughts on how prepared somebody like this is, and then what would you recommend them to continue to do or continue to think about to be successful in the career field?
These are not on the sheet.
They just came up with them.
They're just popping into your head, you know, just put me on the spot. I think a 2-year degree is great. I think that the industry is shifting. There used to be a big push for certifications. There's less of a push for certifications. It's more about what people can do and what people are willing to do. I think the important part that I mentioned earlier about being a continuous learner, that is still the biggest key. If you can come to an interview and show me that, hey, I have my 2-year degree, but I am going to continue learning. I'm going to keep pursuing things. I want to stay on the leading edge of technology. I want to know more about this. I want to be an expert in this. I think that goes a long way. I think in cybersecurity in particular, we have not done a good job of having entry-level positions. And I think that we're starting to recognize that, at least in the Dallas area, and we're really working to resolve that. I know my team alone is trying to shift the way that we're built so that we can bring in more entry-level positions, because it is unfair to say, well, it's an entry-level job in cybersecurity, but you have to have 8 years of experience. It's not entry-level, right? So then you got to figure your way into cybersecurity through IT, and we're missing out on a lot of really good candidates. And so it's something that Toyota recognizes, and I think, you know, with all of the, FinCEN is a really small world, or FinTech, sorry, is a really small world, and so kind of all the big bosses know each other, and so they are talking and they are working on how do we get more people like you into those jobs, and how do we partner with community colleges and other colleges to feed people into our program instead of just requiring 8 years of experience.
We talked a little bit about educational paths and how it's not just the technical, nothing wrong with a STEM degree, right? But there's a wide variety of skill sets and things that are needed. Can you talk a little bit, because within IT in particular, their certifications are important, or at least they have been, maybe that's changing. When you're thinking about candidates, when you're looking at candidates, what kind of certifications do you kind of weigh heavily? These are really good, and which ones maybe, what would you recommend pursuing beyond academic education? It's not on the sheet either, they're just coming to me. I'm just listening to you talk, you're fascinating.
I feel like you just asked my boss this question.
Yeah, but now I'm asking you.
Well, what did he say?
You tell me.
That's a really tough question for me, because I do not put a lot of emphasis on certifications.
Why not, though? Can you talk about
Yeah, sure. So for my part of cybersecurity, one, there aren't a whole lot of certifications. There's a certified information security auditor that you could get, but experience is equally as great. There's a certified risk information security consultant or something that you could get, but again, experience is just as good. And a lot of what I do is more on the technical writing side and process development side, and so there's just, there's not really any certification in that. I think on the more technical side, I see CISPA a lot. There's some ethical hacker certifications that you can get. But a lot of it is just doing and learning and teaching yourself. And I know there's a website, tryhackme.com, something like that, that my boss just told me about yesterday to tell you guys about. So, that kind of stuff, just getting in and testing stuff, and go to AWS and get yourself a cloud server and set up and learn what it'll do. And let AWS, I've heard the user interface is really friendly, and it'll basically teach you everything you want to know about setting up your own cloud. So, go do that stuff. And I would say that is just as important as any certification.
Going back to the candidates that are coming in here, sorry?
Is there a cert you want me to sell?
No, we're not selling anything, this is just informational only, right? Going back to the graduates that we're having coming out, what are you looking for? I don't know if you're in your hiring position at this point, but you have been in the past certainly. When you're hiring for people to come into the IT field, what makes an ideal candidate? What are you looking for? And you're like, hey, this is really interesting to me. What are some of those things that would help somebody stand out and kind of, really get to the top of the list, if you will?
Yeah, so for the part of cybersecurity that I'm in, I need people. I need people that are going to be the face of information security and are going to be interacting with the business in all aspects. So for the GRC side, the governance, risk, and compliance side, I need people that want to make relationships with people. That's really what I'm looking for. And then, I need you to have a little bit of technical knowledge, but I don't need you to be as deep as an ethical hacker. I think on the other side, where we are hiring more technical people, we want to know that you know your stuff. And if you don't know it, that's okay, but be honest about it, right? Don't come to the interview and say you're an expert in 15 different things and then show up and we ask you 2 questions and you don't know the answer, because that is more embarrassing than saying, you know what, I'm still learning about that, right? And I think it's all the stuff that you do on the side, the student clubs, the organizations, the relationships you have outside of the classroom. Those are the things that are important too, right? Because you're building a resume about yourself, you're building your personality, you're building what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, and you're gonna spend most of your time with your coworkers for a good portion of your life. And so, like Dr. Wilmer said, you wanna make sure that you're choosing the right career first and foremost, but also all the things that you do on the outside that help build up who you are and help add to who you are, other than just a hands-on keyboard kind of person. All that matters. So when I'm talking to candidates out of college, those are the things I'm asking. What did you do for hobbies? What did you do? What clubs were you in? Did you get engaged? Did you get involved? Because those are the kind of people that I need on my team. On the technical side, they're probably not going to ask you that as much, but they're still going to ask you. We want to know who you are, and an interview is really just getting to know you and making sure that you're going to be a good fit, because I can teach anybody anything, but you got to be the right person for me to teach.
Can you talk a little bit about, and you're kind of hitting around about it, and I really like this point, about soft skills, right? And Dr. Wilmer was talking about Indeed, LinkedIn, there's a lot of places you can go, and more employers are talking about, specifically post-COVID, the need for soft skills. The technical skills are important, but I'm with you. Even I can be taught technical skills. And if I can do it, literally anyone in this room can do it. What does that say?
15?
Wrap it up, yeah, I gotta go. So can you talk about the importance of soft skills a little bit, particularly in your industry?
Yeah, I think soft skills are super important. Everybody thinks that we're gonna be remote forever, and that's not the case. My teams are coming back into the office more and more frequently. I think Gen Z, you guys are good at your phones and you're good at social media and stuff like that and hiding kind of behind a screen, but the workforce is older. We didn't grow up with the internet, some of us really grew up in the Stone Ages.
Easy.
And so I think the more experience you can get going outside your comfort zone, making relationships, joining the clubs, not just being behind your devices, is only for the better. I know we're going to be in the office more and more, and it's those people skills. You got to have the people skills and the meeting skills, because if you go into a meeting and you sit there and you've developed the best code in the whole wide world, but you can't explain what it does, then I don't have time for you, and I need to move on to the next guy who can tell me what his code does and why it's the best code in the world.
Now for a really difficult one, it is on the list if you want to
Did
see
you
it.
have a question?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you say anything to the, trying to close the wage gap to the older female who's in tech or trying to get deeper in tech, who has maybe had some gap years from raising a family, those issues that are uniquely, not always uniquely for women, but
Sure.
that is something that we struggle with.
I can tell you what my employer is doing now, and I know what my previous employer was doing. So there is a lot of research on the wage gap. We know for a long time women have not been paid what men have been paid, right? Doing the same job, same work. Maybe we're in the same role and you're at the upper end and I'm at the lower end. And so I know that Toyota is really proud about our limited discrepancies. So they do reviews every year, every 2 years to make sure men and women are being paid the same. And if they're not, then they right size it. I know the company I was working for before, which was also a large auto lender, they were instituting a program called returnships, which were exactly what you're talking about. They were for people who took gap years to raise a family, to try something different, and now want to come back into corporate America. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, especially as more and more people are saying, you know what, I'm not done yet. I'm ready to try something else. I want a new challenge. I want to get back into corporate America. So I think we'll keep seeing that. I don't know that Toyota is doing that just yet, but I know that we encourage applicants of all ages and all backgrounds and all career paths. So
There's hope.
there's hope.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Dr.
do.
Wilmer, is this appropriate time for questions from the audience? Or
It
we?
is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Do we have, I got a couple more questions that are on the list, just saying. Thank you for that. Is there any questions from the audience before I monopolize, perfectly capable of monopolizing the conversation?
So I guess my main question is, you went into this field with the expectation of working in a different career path, but you changed it midway and were able to climb up into a different ladder for your corporation. So would you encourage people to try and get a minor degree in something else, just to have that as a backup, I guess, in case their chosen career path doesn't pan out as they thought?
That was a good one.
Can I phone a friend? Can I phone Dr. Wilmer? I left out a piece of my path. I did end up getting my master's degree in business because my bachelor's was very heavily focused on government work, and I knew very quickly that I wasn't going to do that, that I was going to stay in corporate. So I would minor in what you're interested in, and I don't know if that's the right answer, but I'm not a teacher. But yeah, I think it's good to have backup plans, right? What if your brain doesn't even ever stop forming? So what if you turn 35 and you look back and go, oh, I really don't want to be in cyber, I want to be an anthropologist. So yeah, I think you should be open to that. I feel really bad giving you life advice because I'm not a professor, but
Well, I was just wanting to get your take on it.
yeah, I think it worked out really well for me. I did make some moves, and I did specifically get my master's in business because I knew that the degree I had wasn't going to support me long term if I wanted to go corporate, but I think there's plenty of opportunities.
Anybody else? Bueller? Dr. Wilmer, sir.
You can agree to answer this or just
Oh,
close
okay.
the door on it if you want to. But so you made this courageous step into this field of IT. What was it that allowed you to overcome the intimidation and still see success? And so I won't frame my thoughts, but just want to hear, how did you overcome the intimidation of doing that?
Sure. I'm going to be really honest, it was a good leader. The man at the time who saw the potential in me was a phenomenal leader, and he said, come with me, we can do this, we've got this. So it was having somebody have confidence in me. And then it was, you know, a little bit rocky for a while after that. It was intimidating, especially being around such intelligent people and introverted, intelligent people. But I think it really, for me, came down to leadership and somebody saying, hey, I've got you, let's go this way, and being willing to teach me. And I think also being willing to learn was probably the biggest benefit that I had going for me at the time.
Anybody else? I feel like a Vegas lounge singer. Yes, sir. Y'all don't want to hear me sing.
So if you don't have anyone specific like helping you out or being in your support group, like you're full on alone, what do you start from there? Do you try to find like YouTube videos or something? Where do you go from there?
And I think what the gentleman's getting at and what Dr. Wilmer kind of mentioned too, if you could talk about the importance of mentorship. I think you've had some really good mentors in your life, and just how do you find one, how do you seek one out, and how important was that for your success?
Yeah, so mentors are really important. I think you've got a ton of mentors in this room that you could probably reach out to and talk to them about connections and how you can meet folks in the field. Certainly, you know, you can meet me, we can be friends, I'm here for that. I do seek a mentor out every year. I tend to look for someone that has skills that I don't have. When I was first starting out, I wanted somebody that was better at public speaking than me, who could help teach me the tips and tricks of how to get in front of a bunch of people and stand up and talk about myself. Now I look more for people that have the strategic thinking that I feel like I don't really have. I would say, yeah, YouTube, AI, it's all out there. You know, LinkedIn even has courses on IT and things like that. So reach out, and definitely, I know Dr. Wilmer talked about the student clubs and organizations. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Even if it's not an IT support group, it's a support group and it's friends in your corner to say, yeah, you should try that class. Or, hey, you're getting really good at this. What have you been doing? And just somebody to talk to and, you know, share your life experience with.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask, like, in regards to pushback in the workforce, like as a woman in STEM, when you're in a room and you're in a field where there are a lot of people who they don't really relate to you based on, they don't really know you and they might have prejudices against you, how would you deal with, because like your higher ups and your superiors when you're coming up in the industry are different to who mine will be and a lot of ours will be. Those higher ups will be your peers. So when it comes to your peers, how would you recommend dealing with pushback and dealing with the whole idea of being confident enough in yourself to tell someone that, hey, what I'm talking about, I understand what I'm saying and I know that you're wrong, or I really believe that you're wrong, so I want you to either, correct me or be able to collaborate with me so that we can work through this together. Is that something that will be accepted, or is that something that would kind of be like it would limit your career when you're talking back to these people? I don't know if I asked that.
That is a great question.
That is a fascinating question. I wish I'd have thought of it.
I think the way you described it was almost perfect, right? So when we have professional disagreements, or when younger folks are coming in and telling us, hey, no, I know how this is gonna go, I think the best way to handle that is just almost exactly how you did, in a very professional manner. I've studied this, I know what I'm talking about, I see it differently than you see it. And I think that there's room for that. I think especially in IT, there's room for a pushback, and there's room for, I disagree with the way you want to do this. There's no one right way to do anything in IT or information security. And so I think just being confident in yourself and in your abilities and what you've learned here or elsewhere, but being polite about it, I think there's always going to be room for that.
Yes, ma'am. I got one really question I just thought of, but Dr. Wilmer's giving me the 5 minutes. So I'll just get it home.
So in terms of having an associate's degree and the job requirements require a bachelor's degree, right? Would it be okay if you had your associates as part of your job application, but also a portfolio of your works or projects you worked on at school to make up for that requirement? Would that be doable?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
acceptable in job applications?
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I think that would be, I know that I would probably be taken by surprise if somebody turned that into me for a job application. You know, I think there was this huge push when I was your age to get a 4-year degree. You have to have a 4-year degree. Everybody has to. It's the rules. And now we found out, you don't really need a 4-year degree. It's not really the rules, is it? We can make the rules whatever we want to make the rules. So I think that would absolutely be acceptable. I also think that there's a statistic that I can't remember off the top of my head, but like women wait to apply for jobs until they have like 95% of their requirements. Men apply with like 32% of the requirements. And then they get the job because we didn't apply, right? Because we thought, oh, I don't have enough. So absolutely, you know, add whatever you can to your resume that makes you look awesome, because we need to be going after those jobs too. We need, even if we're going after them with 60%, that's still better than what we're doing today, right?
Thank you.
Anybody else? We still good on time, Doctor? Because I got one more really, really insightful question.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm super excited about it. If you could go back in time just a few years ago and meet your 20-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of advice would you have for them as far as career, specifically career advice? What would you recommend? What would you tell 20-year-old Tiffany? I know, it's a good one, right?
So good.
I'm gonna pay for that one later.
You know what? I don't know that I would tell 20-year-old Tiffany anything different than she knew at 20 years old. I think it's been a wild ride. I think I've been open to opportunity and to learning, and I think that everything has happened exactly the way it was supposed to. So I don't know that I would go back and tell her anything. I think I would just tell her, buckle up, buttercup.
Well said. Sir. Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was awesome, man. Really appreciate it.
So this is the end, but there are some reminders. So we have some future sessions planned. The one in March features a guest speaker that we hope is able to come and visit with us, Rachel Funk. She is a NASA scientist. What? She is the laboratory lead on some space exploration of missions that have brought back materials from asteroids and from Mars, and she really wants to share what she has found on Mars. And so come back in March 21st. We also have Dr. Kenneth Thomas, that is a chiropractor, and he's the Vice President of External Affairs at Parker University. That's our April guest speaker. And so those are the two remaining STEM So What seminar sessions that we have planned. And so March 21st is that week after spring break. So come back and see us. Next. Wonderful. Last slide here. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. JRR token. And so I hope you enjoyed this evening. This concludes our STEM So What seminar session for February 15th. Thank you for coming.